Peace and blessings to you. My name is Jerry B. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. And welcome to a very special episode of the EntreMusician. As all of you know, whether you're a jazz fan or not, the iconic, legendary Grammy Award winner by 23 times, jazz virtuoso Chick Corea passed away on February 9th. And it was a shock to the music world. It was especially a shock for me, being not only a huge Chick Corea fan, but back in December, I interviewed this great man who's sitting to the left of your screen. He was a manager, road manager, business manager, record label president, and worked with Chick for 27 years. Of the 23 Grammy Awards that Chick Corea earned from his great career, Ron Moss helped him earn 16 of those Grammys. So we want to pay a very special tribute to Chick Corea. First of all, our hearts and our prayers go out to Gail and the family and all who loved and known him personally. We want to pay tribute to Chick, but we also want to share some special memories with Ron, who knew him, who loved him, who worked with him, who worked for him, and can really bring some clarity to the man that we all know and love as Chick Corea. Ron, what's going on, brother?
What's going on is there's the Romantic Warrior gold record right behind me.
That's the gold record. Wow. Romantic Warrior. And what part did you play on that record, Ron?
I think I'm listed, I don't know, management probably.
Yeah.
I was sort of, sometimes I used to get executive producer credit, but I don't think I did on that one.
Yeah, I know on a lot of GRP stuff, you were executive producer all the time. Now, here's what I don't want to do, just for those of you who are watching. I'm going to link to the interview, the conversation that Ron and I had back in December. I really, truly don't plan on asking him any repeat questions. This is truly about just some personal history, some memories, and some tributes that Ron wants to bring to the table for Chick. So I'm just going to open it up. Ron, would you let us know when you first encountered the giant?
Yeah, well, you know, there's a common thread here that we're Chick and I and Stanley Clark and I guess a lot of other people, my daughter, everybody, we're all Scientologists. And I met Chick when I was working in East Grinstead at the Scientology headquarters in England. And Chick came over from America to do some services there, and I was in one of the lobbies, and then he walked in, you know, and there was Chick Corea, and I was flabbergasted. I mean, I was just a fan.
Wow.
I think I said hello, or probably did, or he didn't say anything. Whatever. He was a young Chick Corea then.
Now, what year was that when he?
I was trying to figure that out last night.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's got to be 1968, 69, or 70, somewhere in there, because it's before he played Ronnie Scott's with the Lighters, the Return to Forever band, the Light as a Feather one, with Stanley, Joe, Aieto, and Flora. And I went to those concerts later, between that meeting or meeting him at that point, and then later I went up to New York 3 days in a row because Chick was playing at the Ronnie Scott's. And now Flora wasn't there because she just got busted, you know, with the drug thing.
Yeah.
And but Aieto, Joe, Stanley, and Chick, and it was just amazing. I mean, I sat through like 6 hours, 3 hours a night for 3 nights. You know, it's just it's magical. That band was magical. Absolutely. And the energy or the oneness between Stanley and Chick, I've never seen it between two musicians before. Wow. Or since. Mm-hmm. It's just magical. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They played like one person. Like one guy would play a phrase,
yeah,
and then Stanley would finish it. It was like nobody has that kind of understanding, I don't think. But anyway, so that was that, and then the connection with Chick is that I used to know a gentleman called Neville Potter. He wrote the lyrics to a lot of the Return to Forever songs. And but he and I lived in the same apartment building. He had another wife at that point.
Uh-huh.
And he went over to America to work in New York as a counselor at the big New York Center for Scientology in New York. And he met another lady, I guess, and divorced I don't know if they divorced, but he hooked up with this other lady, which was Leslie Wynn Potter.
Uh-huh.
Now Leslie and Neville were together, and Chick and Neville and Leslie all lived together on 96th Street in New York, and that's where they lived. Mm-hmm. And what happened is that Neville and Leslie began to work with Chick and basically manage him. Mm. Neville handled the money. Leslie was the whiz kid manager, and she was a whiz kid, and she still is. She's still alive. So's Neville. Wow. And my connection was I then moved to America, nothing to do with Neville or Chick or anybody. And we were I went with a band into Los Angeles. The band broke up after a couple of weeks, and then we formed another band. I was playing bass there and singing, a little bit of trombone, but not much. And we played in the Scots Club in Santa Monica, and we played around. And I was broke. I mean, I was not legal. I was illegal. I was an illegal alien, a wetback. I still am a wetback, I guess. And one day we was sitting in a Denny's in Hoover, on Hoover Street. Yeah. Or 3rd Street. Anyway, Les Carter was the percussionist. What happened to the band? I was playing in the band in England that was led by Ron Miscavige, who happens to be David Miscavige, the head of Scientology, chairman of the board, father. And we had a band. David was only young then, of course. And the band broke up because of various dubious activities between members of the band and relatives. And I ended up getting on what we did, we brought in a drummer and a drummer and a piano player from America, Mil Pandolfi and Dave Brett. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of the end of the band. We changed the band. They were better musicians than the one we had, but the chemistry changed. Something happened. Just when you change personality in a band, a lot can happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up with Les. David Brett's father lent us the money to get on the plane, and my first journey to America was on a 747. I'd never been on a plane before. I'm going to tell you a funny story now.
Sure.
Okay. So we land in Los Angeles. I've got my trombone and a suitcase. That's it. And I'm wearing, I'll tell you about the suit later. But so this girl that used to be the singer in the band in England, Mary Maron, met me at the airport. She picked me up in a pink Mustang convertible. Would you believe this?
Yeah.
And drove me to McDonald's, the first thing she ever did. And I had my first Big Mac. Oh, man, this is my first night in America. Okay, there's this guy from Birmingham who's just a lousy Dixieland player. Now I'm in a pink Mustang driving up into Mulholland Drive. And we're going to stay the night at Karen Black. Mary Maron was looking after Karen Black, the actress. Do you know Karen Black?
I don't know the actress. Karen.
Oh, you do know her, actually. Let me tell you. She was in Easy Rider. She had a squinty eye.
Okay.
She did Airport with Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
Very good actress. Mary was looking after a house. So we're gonna stay at Karen's house, which is on Mulholland Drive, up in the mountains in LA. And it's got this infinity pool, which just has no edge, it just goes off into the hit. It doesn't, but it looks like it does.
Sure.
And it looks over the whole of the valley. It's just absolutely breathtaking. And we spend the night there. We go skinny dipping in the pool. This is my first, we spend the night in bed in a 4-poster bed, and this is my first night in America.
First night. Welcome to the USA.
I thought I'd landed in Sodom and Gomorrah, I think, Anyway, so that was my first night. Then I ended up sleeping on the garage floor at Emil's house, and we had no mattress or anything. Wow. It was pretty rough. But so I was sitting in this Denny's, and I'm like, I guess I should go home. How am I ever going to make it here? It's very difficult when you land and don't have a job or anything, and You're not legal. And I had 10 cents. And I said, you know what? I'm going to call my friend Neville in New York, because I knew he was working with Chick.
I see.
I knew he was writing lyrics anyway. I didn't realize he was co-managing, but he was.
Mm-hmm.
So I called Neville, and Neville had to call me back because 10 cents didn't last longer.
Right.
He called me back, and I said, hey, Nev. And I knew Nev. Nev was a very close personal friend. And I said, Neville, you got a job? And he says, oh, damn it, Ron. He said, we just hired a guy called Gary Weiss as tour manager. You could have done the job perfectly.
Mm.
And I said, oh, dear, okay. Anyway, a week went by after that phone call, and I get a call from Neville. And he says, Ron, we got rid of Gary. Gary was dealing drugs. Chick doesn't want any drugs around.
Wow.
So we fired him. So we're going to come out and see you next week.
Mm-hmm.
So they came out, Leslie and Neville came out to Los Angeles, and they were managing Chick. I mean, it was for real. The Return to Forever band existed.
Mm-hmm.
Al DeMel had just joined.
Wow.
Because what's his name had left. Oh, and who was the guy that left? Jesus, not Scott Henderson. That was another incident. Who was the guitar player before Al? Anyway, Al was the new guy in the block. So they came out. We went to see Rollerball at the Cinerama Dome on Hollywood Boulevard. Oh, Sunset Boulevard.
Uh-huh.
And then we went to Musso Frank's. Have you heard of that restaurant?
I have not.
Oh, it's a fantastic old restaurant right on Hollywood Boulevard. The food is amazing.
Wow.
Leslie loved it, so we went there to eat. And basically, I hit it off with Leslie because Neville knew me, but I'd never met Leslie. And then they said, well, we want you to come to New York and join us. So get your stuff packed and get out of here in a week. So I did. I packed up my stuff and I wore my suit, a trombone and a suitcase. And this suit was the most gross suit you've ever seen. One way it shone red, the other way it shone green.
Jeez.
It was. I bought it at Burton's in Birmingham. Anyway, it was gross. It's a horrible suit. They picked me up. It took me home to Minetto. At that point, we had the offices at Minetto Hill Road in Plainview on the Long Island. And Chick still had an apartment in New York on 96.
Uh-huh.
The offices and everything. And Chick was living out there with Gail. And I slept on the sofa. And Neville and Leslie slept upstairs. And Chick and Gail slept downstairs. Mm-hmm. And the next day I got up and Leslie says, look, I'm going to give you $1,000. You're going to go into Barney's in New York and you're going to buy some clothes. So I did. I went into New York. I didn't drive, did I? I can't remember. Anyway, went to Barney's, bought myself some sheer are they boots, great boots, big coat, because we were going up north to tour and do dates. I mean, you couldn't go in like a little jacket. This was heavy weather.
Yeah.
Came back, I had more clothes than I'd ever had in my life. Anyway, so as Neville says, okay, you got 12 days to put this tour together. Because they'd fired Gary. Mm-hmm. So there was nobody doing it. I had 12 days, but the guy before Gary, Alan Cousins, who was brilliant, did what's called, we call it in Scientology, a hat write-up. It's how you do your job.
Okay. And
you write up everything about it. Yeah. And he compiled this incredible hat write-up of how to be a tour manager. So I had all this data, and that I just kept reading this stuff, making phone calls, reading the stuff, making phone calls. You know, I had a great travel agent who really helped me because you have to do all the travel and everything. Right. And our first date was at the Westchester Theatre. I think I might have said this in the last interview. Actually, I'm not sure. Yes. And we are opening to Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Right.
So we went up there, and it's the incident where I get paid a check. Right. Remember? And I had to go into the city next day and cash it.
Right. Or you'd have to pay the band yourself.
Or I'd have to pay the 5 Gs.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, that was my first night on the gig. And that's when I was on the road with Chick at that point. There was Chick. Chick used to sit in the front passenger seat. I drove. Stanley, Lenny, and Al sat in the back. I think Al ended up in the middle. Yeah.
And this is the Richard Pryor 8 tracks.
Oh, this is it. Yeah, I told you about that.
Right.
But also we had 15 suitcases and we drove around the whole tour. We did the US tour. Then I had to go to Europe, but I wasn't legal. So I couldn't just leave. You can't just leave the country and come back. So I found this great attorney in LA, Mark Ivner, and he got me paroled. They parole you out of the country because I'd applied for a visa. I'd applied for a green card. So 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 the excuse was my father was very ill, actually. And I got out to see him in England. But I didn't go to England. I went out on the road with Chick and the band all over Europe, then went to England, saw my dad, and came home.
You had to justify the story, right?
Well, you had to, yes. When I came back into New York, I forget which airport, it must have been JFK. And this guy at the immigration guy stamped my passport, okay to work. It's a miracle. Now I could work.
Absolutely.
I was legal. Anyway, so we did that. And then I think what was the first record I ended up doing? Must have been Romantic Warrior. Yeah.
Wow.
But you can imagine, you got to realize I was on the road with a guy who is a musical genius, as you know.
Yes.
And I would stand by the side of that stage every night. And I got to hear that music every night.
Every night.
And it smoked. I mean, it was the best music I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
I loved it. And to be there every night with those guys, you know, as friends as well. Yes. Well, we became friends, obviously.
Absolutely.
And I used to have this thing where Chick smoked Tartans. I think Stanley smoked Marlboro. I'm not sure. Can't remember. But I do know Chick smoked Tartans. So when the band came off before the encore, I would have 2 cigarettes lit for those guys. And I gave them the cigarettes and they got a few drags, which made me a hero. Because I gave them a shot of, you know, drugs before they went back home. But I was very popular. And I used to announce the band and all that, you know.
So take me through.
The journey was just amazing.
It's amazing that you can recall this. Now take me through a day, typical day with Chick Corea.
Well, they were all pretty well the same. When you're on the road, you know, the problem is not playing the gig. The problem is getting to and from the gig. It's always that's the problem. You spend 10, 12 hours a day not playing, trying to get to the gig and get set up, and then you play. The 2 hours you play are the best hours of the day.
Right.
So, you know, get up. I'd get everybody down in the lobby, get the car, get taxi, whatever way. We got to the airport, go to the airport. Chick would be writing music on the plane. You know, Chick could sit. He could sit. He wrote the whole Miles Davis solo on, I'm going to forget the song. Blackbird, is it? He sat on the plane one day and he wrote out in bass clef for trombone the whole Miles Davis solo, note for note. Yeah. Without any headphone, without anything. I mean, that's the level of musicianship this guy was at.
Yeah, I remember reading articles where he would be on a plane and it's just the music in his head and being able to just write out the sheet music.
Write it down, Just wrote it down,
My goodness.
You know, we'd have laughs and jokes, and there was Richard Pryor and things like that. But then you get into a city, you get out of the airport, hopefully you've organized the pickup and there's somebody there to meet you.
Yeah.
Promoter takes you to your hotel, you check in the hotel. And we had some interesting times checking in the hotel. I'm a white guy. You're black, right?
That's what they tell me, yes.
Yeah, I think you are, yeah. Stanley and Lenny.
Stanley and Lenny, right.
Al and Chick are white. Well, Chick kind of lives in the middle, doesn't he?
Does it?
He did, in a way. He had kind of darker skin. And sometimes hotels wouldn't check us in because of the 2 black guys.
Amazing.
I'd never seen anything like this. You got to realize we didn't have that level of racism in England. I mean, there was racism, but it wasn't like that.
Yes.
So you'd get to a hotel. I was in Nashville one night trying to check in, and they wouldn't check me in. And I'm standing there, and there's 4 guys behind me. 2 are black, 2 are white. They won't check me in. I went berserk at this guy. I mean, I literally nearly got over the counter and hit him. He was so racist, this guy. It was gross. So I went. There was a Holiday Inn or something across the street, and I went across the street, and I didn't let the guys into the lobby until I checked everybody in.
Gotcha.
Then I give them the room keys, and got them in a hotel. Yeah. Anyway, so then you do that. Now, depending on whether you were playing that night, if you were traveling and playing on the same night, it was a pretty intense day because then you would have to go to the sound check. sound check, eat, you know.
Yes.
Sound checks were always complicated with that band because the electronics and everything.
Right.
And, you know, it'd be an hour and a half sound check. Then you'd go to dinner and then the show would start. And sometimes you went to dinner after the show. Sometimes you went straight to bed. There wasn't a lot of, the band was a good band. There wasn't a lot of fraternizing. There's not a lot of girls around.
Yeah.
None of that stuff.
Not a lot of after parties or things like that.
No drugs.
Yeah.
Not even a lot of alcohol.
That's good.
No alcohol, really. Nobody seemed to drink. I didn't even drink in those days. So it's kind of weird. But anyway, and that would be a typical day. And then you're up the next day doing the same thing all over again. We did, I think, 284 gigs in 365 days one year. That's a lot.
And this is with Return to Forever, correct?
Yeah. Now, the Return to Forever band didn't actually last that long. We made Romantic Warrior, and what an album that is. And then Chick was unhappy. I mean, he started to want to get rid of Neville and Leslie. He wanted to change the band. I think he wanted Gail to sing. And the band, basically, we did 3 nights at the Beacon Theatre in New York. There's the last 3 gigs. Wow, we made so much money on those gigs. It was ridiculous. They sold out every night. And he broke up the band. And we continued Return to Forever, but it was the version with Stanley on bass, Gail sang. That's right. Am I right? Oh, yeah, we had a brass section. Right. And I think it was Dave Liebman on sax or Joe Farrell, one of the two. Anyway, that was a different version of Return to Forever. They made the Music Magic record. The Music Magic record was that band.
I see.
Get it?
Yeah, I do.
Now, in between these various tours, we did the Chick and Gary album, you know, all those kind of projects as well. I mean, Chick is incredibly busy, you know.
He's the type of guy who's always working, writing all the time. I mean, I think that is a snapshot of his last year with us because he was just so prolific and doing everything.
He was doing the Academy music thing, everything, right?
Yeah, he was just boom, 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 boom. And so this is the last thing that you expected to hear.
He never stopped, did he?
No. I mean,
so we did, you know, we had I remember the septet which had French horn and all sorts of things in it, John Dixon. You know, he was always doing projects, you know, it's just amazing.
What would you say is your most, and not Chick the musician, but Chick the man, what would you say is your most memorable moments with him? Wow.
Crikey, that's an impossible question to answer, I think.
Well, you had 27 years. I know that there's a lot to pack in there, but, you know, was there anything that kind of stood out to you about?
There was one characteristic that sticks out. And actually, if you read all these tributes to him, they all say it. It's the fact that he actually says it in that write-up he did, that his only dream was to have people create. In other words, all he was trying to do was to get people to create. In other words, he knew that the more artists that there were in the world, the better the world was going to be.
Yeah.
And if you look at that, that's true, you know. The less politicians we have, the better it'll be. The more artists we have and writers, and I don't mean just musicians, I mean actors, directors. The more creativity you have in the world, the better the world is. I mean, it's just the way it is. And that was Chick's total motivation. Even as a Scientologist, that was his motivation. It was nothing to do with getting people into Scientology. It was the fact he just wanted people to be able to go out and create what they wanted to create. And that's the big quality that I remember about him. That was what that's what motivated him, and that's what he did every day of his life. You know what I mean?
What about his sense of humor? Did he have a wry sense of humor? Was he silly? Did he play practical jokes?
Yeah, this is his favorite joke. Horse walks into a bar. Barman says, "Why the long face?" That's Chick's favorite joke. Yeah. And we used to watch movies on the bus. You know, we did a lot of, when the electric band formed, we did a lot of bus tours.
Mm-hmm.
Bus tours are hard work because you're moving all the time. But
yeah,
we used to watch movies, and I just remember one night we were all watching. Have you ever heard of a comedian called Spike Milligan?
Not right off the bat, no.
And there was a thing called The Goon Show in England.
The Goon Show.
And Peter Sellers, Harry Seacombe, and Spike Milligan.
Well, Peter Sellers, I know.
Well, you know Peter Sellers. Yeah.
Right.
He's the one that went on to be the most successful. But Spike Milligan was a funny guy. And we're watching this sketch one night. Mike Miller was in the band then. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, we're watching this thing, and Spike Milligan, it comes on the TV, and all these little guys are walking past Spike Milligan, and he's counting them.
Yeah.
And we're all sitting there watching this thing. And then he turns and says, it's the little things that count. And Chick completely lost it. I mean, you know, it was just one of those moments where we all lost it because it was the most hilarious thing we'd ever seen. So there were moments like that, which, you know, the time we grease-spotted Weckl and left him at a truck stop.
Say that again. Say that again.
We grease-spotted, it's called grease-spotting. You leave a guy at the truck stop. You're not supposed to. It's just called that. So we drove. It was
Dave Weckl.
Yeah, we thought he was in the bed. Nobody checked. We changed the policy then. You had to check every bunk before we left anyway. But we drove away.
How far? How far?
45 minutes into the next journey. And somebody says, where's Weckl? We turned around and went back and got him, yeah. We grease spotted him. It's called grease spotting. Because we used to get off the bus in the middle of the night at truck stops and we'd be playing football. Weckl, Attitude, and myself loved to throw us football, you know. I was a good rugby player, but I wasn't much of a... I mean, I could catch a little bit, but we had some great fun.
Oh, that's funny.
Rolling around the parking lot in the middle of the night, you know. But there were magical moments like that, you know. I mean, there's a lot of fun moments you get when you're on the road, you know.
Absolutely. Now, what would you say were some of the things that, either disappointed or upset a man like Chick Corea? I mean, I would imagine he's an incredible perfectionist. What were some of the things that you thought maybe ruffled his feathers?
We're opening to Fleetwood Mac. There's another band, a big band. Bob Seger, was it? In those days, fusion bands used to play with pop acts.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I mean, it all fit together, you know.
Yeah.
Great fusion band, had incredible rhythm and everything. And we were opening to Fleetwood Mac, and we were in Orlando. And there was this storm came through, and the stage fell down. And a whole chaos, and Fleetwood Mac didn't go on. And, Scott Henderson was in the band. Anyway, Jerry Brown. That was that was a different band. Okay. Jerry Brown, the drummer, you know, Jerry?
Yeah, Jerry Brown, Gerry, Jerry.
Yes, he's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, G-E-R, not G-E-R-I, yeah.
That's right. No, I know my music, man. I know my music, bro.
Anyway, Chick, the promoter says, look, we're going to pay you in full. You don't have to play. Mm. And Chick insisted that we play. This fight ensued between Jerry and Chick. When Chick says, no, we're going to play. We've got an audience. We've got 10,000 people out there that came to see us. We're going to play. Mm-hmm. And he held to it, and we played. Yeah. I wasn't in the band, but the band performed.
Yes.
And that's the kind of allegiance, I guess you'd call it, or whatever, he had to his audience. You know, we went on. I mean, I had lots of instances of the tour manager where I held the band off the stage because the promoter hadn't paid me. In those days, you got paid cash or you didn't go on stage, you know.
Understood. Yes.
And I remember in Pittsburgh, I had the band off. It was like 45 minutes after when the show should have started, and the promoter wouldn't pay me. And the police came and said, look, you're going to put this band on the stage or we're going to have a riot.
Now, so which band was this?
That was Return to Forever.
Return to Forever. Okay. Okay.
And I put them on the stage, and I eventually got the money. I don't know how I got the money, but it was the most scary. I went down into the cellar under the Pittsburgh Theater, and this promoter had 3 huge guys, you know, like they would have killed me at the drop of a hat, and he won't pay me.
Wow.
And we've done the show, so you're dead. You have no leverage at all.
That's right. Right.
I don't know. I sweet talked this guy. I think it's my English diplomacy, and he gave me the money. So we left with, got the hell out of there real quick, actually.
Yeah. So there was, and excuse my naivety, being so naive, I apologize, but there was no like down payment, security deposit, or anything. You just showed up.
Sometimes colleges would pay a deposit, yeah.
Okay.
But not like now. Now you can get the whole fee paid up front. I mean,
sure.
And there's the various laws. You can sue now in small claims court for the money. I mean, in those days, there wasn't the same legal situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if a guy could get away with it, he'd not pay you.
Gotcha.
A lot of that happened. I mean, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I've held the band off until the promoter's screaming at me, and I'm saying, "Give me the money,"
Yes.
and they'll go on. And they find the money. They always have the money.
Well, they have the money, yeah.
Yeah, they've got the box office for a start.
Exactly.
I mean, they could go get the cash out of the box office. So you know they have the money.
Right.
I mean, if there's nobody in the audience, maybe that's a different situation. But I've had those too, where you have nobody turns up at a gig, or not enough people turn up, and you have to renegotiate the fee off the cuff right there and then.
Now, let me ask this question, and this is a sensitive question, but you know, again, with just seeing Chick up close and personal, we know that he has worked with a variety of different artists, and you don't have to name the last name of the artist, but was there someone that Chick particularly would not have worked with because of whatever reason? And I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but he seems such a great humanitarian.
There was very few. I remember one strange incident. Ramsey Lewis wanted to sign with Stretch Records, and Ramsey's great, right?
Yeah.
You like Ramsey? I love him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So there was the setup in Stretch was Chick had to approve every act we signed. That was the deal. I mean, Chick was the musical head of Stretch. Mm-hmm. I was the business guy.
And this is Stretch Records. Just for those of you who don't know, this is the label that Ron ran, but it was distributed by GRP, and Ron was the president of Stretch Records.
Yeah, and then it was distributed later by Concord.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, the second deal. And I think we were on Concord at the time. No, we were on GRP. Mm-hmm. So Carl Griffin was the A&R guy at GRP. And I was the A&R guy, Stretch, and I wanted to sign Ramsey. And I went to Chick. I said, let's sign Ramsey. And he says, no. And we never did sign him. And Carl Griffin found out that we hadn't signed him, and he signed him to Concord.
Now Chick GRP. Never gave you to GRP, right? So
never gave me a reason.
Never gave you a reason.
No, not really. I mean, Chick had an interesting musical stand. I mean, Chick was hilarious. I mean, Tom Breckline tells a story about being in the same hotel as Queen in his tribute on Facebook.
Yeah.
And he comes downstairs and Chick's on the staircase and Tom's across the other side of the lobby, and the lobby's mayhem because Queen are in the hotel. Okay?
Right.
And Chick says to Tommy something like, why all these people? He says, because Queen are here. And Chick says, who's Queen? So he's like, I remember one time when we were making Spanish Heart, I had the top 50 records listed, and I'm going down the list. There's only 2 people he knew, Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder. All the other guys, he didn't know them. They're top musical stars, you know, like Fleetwood Mac meant nothing to Chick.
Wow.
He's musical, in one way, his musical point of view was very narrow, especially in relation to pop music.
Yes.
But it wasn't narrow. It was a huge view. It was a bigger viewpoint than we all had.
It's amazing.
You follow what I mean?
I do.
Like his viewpoint was greater than ours,
Yeah.
And just because we knew Fleetwood Mac or Queen or whatever,
Yeah.
didn't mean anything to him. You know? So he's sometimes maybe Ramsey's slotted into that, you know, the kind of the beer rolling music, you know. Maybe he didn't really feel comfortable about it, but I really don't know that for sure.
Who would you say then that he most admired among his contemporaries?
Oh, Steve Gadd. He loved Steve. He loved Airto. He loved Flora. He loved Joe Farrell. He loved Gary Burton, of course.
Yeah, Gary and him, what, 40 different recordings together?
Unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Steve Gadd, he loved Bob Berg. I mean, Steve Wilson, all of the Patitucci, Weckl, you know, Frank, Eric. And I mean,
there's, you know, genuine love and admiration.
Oh, absolutely. Unrequited love, you know.
That's good.
He never, Al Di Meola, I mean, he fell out with, God damn it, he fell out with Scott Henderson because Chick had a real sense on the stage of trying to get a natural sound. And one of the things that goes wrong with electric groups is that the monitors are so loud
and they just turn up.
You can't hear each other, right? So Chick's game was how do we get the music from the stage? It's electric. We're playing electric keyboards, electric bass, electric guitar. How do you get that to the audience without killing the band? So the band can hear each other.
Yes. And
we were in Europe, and Chick wanted Scott to turn down and move his amp so that Chick could hear him. And Scott refused. He said, "No, this is the way I play. I can hear myself." And that was the beginning and the end of Scott Henderson. So that viewpoint, you know, especially if you're playing acoustic piano, which we did in most of these electric bands, he played acoustic piano and electric keyboard.
Yes. Yeah.
You got to get that balance right. Otherwise, you know, sometimes with the Return to Friend band, it got so gross. I mean, Stanley had a rack of speakers that were like, it was like there was 4, 10, 8, 15, probably 24, you know, big 15-inch woofers. And we used to make recordings from Lenny's monitors.
Wow.
The best sound in the place was Lenny's monitors. And everything was in his monitors.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. He needed to hear all that.
It was so loud. If you stood at the back, I could stand at the back of a hall like the Beacon, and I could feel Stanley's bass, low bass things, making my ribs shake. I mean, the sound, the volume. Chick had a PA system of his own.
Wow.
On stage that that was what he heard through. So we got rid of a lot of that stuff. Chick was a genius at that. He was sensitive to sound. It wasn't just, although he'd play loud if he had to.
Yeah.
But I mean, the balance was on the stage was very, very important. You know, it's like that was something that we worked on a lot.
Wow. Now, I'm sorry.
When we formed the acoustic band, for instance, out of the electric band, that was such a dramatic shift because we went from electric keyboards to just piano, John on upright bass. Right. And basically, Dave, what was that drummer's teacher in LA he went to? He died not long ago. And Dave had to learn to be an acoustic drummer to play jazz. Dave had chops galore. But playing in an acoustic trio is a whole different thing.
Absolutely.
Playing like Roy Haynes, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dave had to relearn the drums almost. Amazing. I mean, and he did. Dave did. Dave's a fabulous jazz drummer now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hands down.
But we remember that song Rumble? You ever heard that song? Yeah. You know Rumble.
Yeah, that was electric. That was electric.
Yeah. But the sound on the stage from Dave's system was ridiculous. I mean, the volume was amazing. But I mean, but that was also part of the music at the time, you know.
Yes. No, well, the electric band era really woke me up to the next transition that music was going to take. That was a whole new
Yeah.
transformation for me, for sure.
But in
But now,
some, I think in some ways with Chick, I think in these last years he's been more acoustic
that's correct.
than
That's
electric.
correct.
Although he did do a reunion with the electric band.
And I loved his stuff with Beulah Fleck. I mean, that was,
You know, that came after me. That came after me, but it is beautiful, isn't it?
it's beautiful music. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Beulah, I knew Beulah. We all knew Beulah, Victor Wooten and his band.
Yes.
But Chick and him hadn't done anything together yet.
Mm-hmm.
But after I'd gone, I think a couple of years later, he did the record with Beulah and everything.
Yeah.
I never got to see him live with Beulah, but
What about Bobby McFerrin? Did you see any
Bobby,
of that?
man, Bobby, with Linda Goldstein was his manager. Yeah, Bobby, I've got a picture here, mate. Where is it? Oh, I'll show you. Let me show you this.
Sure.
This is at Carnegie Hall.
Oh, wow.
Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
That one right there.
That's my son walking towards Bobby McFerrin. See it?
Yes.
And then Chick's on the other side.
Right on the piano.
Yeah, that's at
That's
Carnegie
beautiful.
Hall. Yeah. Anyway, so Bobby's a genius. Bobby's another genius. He's extraordinary.
He is.
I mean, we
Absolutely.
did those concerts with these orchestra. You know, he had what was it called? The Minneapolis Chamber Orchestra or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We did those recordings actually, and but the Bobby and Chick concerts were something very special.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was just amazing, wasn't it? Yeah.
Beyond amazing. You know, and those are two souls, like you.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right. You're right. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Yeah, with you reiterated or you mentioned earlier with respect to Stanley Clark and Chick, you know, that synergy
I
that
guess
they had.
Bobby
It was the same thing.
Yeah, Bobby and Chick were the same thing, weren't they?
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, so he did repeat that. Well, Gary and Chick are like that too.
Well, yeah, but I mean, gosh, like I said, 40 albums, and you can go back to even the first one and see the symmetry that they were creating, that you know this is going to be special because, hey, who had done anything like that with the vibes and the
Crystal
piano?
Silence was the first record, right?
Yes, Crystal Silence.
I love that. That record is an amazing album.
Absolutely. And so these are two geniuses who are coming to fore for the very first time. And it was really the shape of things to come. Just awesome.
So we can evaluate from that a little bit logically. So it wasn't just Chick and Stanley.
Mm-hmm.
If it's Bobby and Chick, Gary and Chick, Steve Gadd and Chick, the common denominator is Chick.
It's Chick. That's
Yeah.
right.
In other words,
or Herbie. We can't leave out Herbie.
yeah, well, Herbie, of course, yeah.
Even he.
You see the light. What I'm saying is the common denominator is Chick.
Yeah.
It's not Stanley. It's not Gary. It's not Steve.
Yes.
It's Chick.
Yeah.
Chick is the guy that makes people play like that or be like that.
Absolutely.
So that's an interesting realization I just had. If you think about it, yeah.
No, that's right on point because again, you know, if you listen to Crystal Silence, again, this is the shape of things to come. And these are two hearts who are kind of like melting into each other.
Yeah.
It sweeps you along.
You know, the other day I was watching this thing out of England, a tribute to Chicken, and the guy and this is a record that I tend to forget because I wasn't involved in it. Chick and I split between, I think it was 1980 and 1982. We were apart while he had another manager, a dick manager who ended up ripping him off. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't with Chick, and they made 3 quartets. Mm-hmm. And this guy played quartet number 1. Have you heard that lately?
I haven't. Not lately, no. Sir.
Go back. You got to hear it. Michael Brecker. Well, it's not just Michael. It's the whole thing. It's Eddie Gomez and Steve Gadd. And that's an incredible record, 3 quartets. I forgot about it because I didn't make that record. I came back to join Chick just after that record had gotten released.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, we were thinking 90 albums. We have 90 albums to go through with Chick's. Yeah. 90. Come on. I mean, you know, that takes all 2020.
Yeah, I was up to over 80. I think when I was with him, we were up over 80.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's crazy. It's an incredible career. But as we said earlier, someone who just kept working. There was always a project. There was always something that was on the front burner with him.
Unbelievable. Well, look at the new band with Brian Blade, and what
And
about the Bud
Christian
Powell band?
McBride.
Christian McBride and
Yeah.
Bud Powell band with, I mean, Roy and, I mean, the band, Christian and, I mean, what the bands he's had, it's incredible. You know that he did 2016, he did a month at the Blue Note. Remember
Yes,
that?
that's correct. That was for his 70th birthday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now you said you
No,
were kind enough.
no, it's got to be his 73rd birthday. Anyway, it's okay.
Yeah, or 75th. I don't know. Because he was 70.
Maybe, yeah. They recorded all those shows. Do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
And videoed them.
That's correct.
I wrote to Bernie Kirsch. You know Bernie, right?
Bernie, yeah. He was executive producer.
Bernie, I don't know who the executive of his, I used to be, when I was with him, I was the executive of his estate. When he fired me, I lost the gig.
Gotcha.
But I said to Bernie, you must have some incredible music in the can. Because we recorded every concert.
Sure.
You know that? Everything.
Yeah.
We're all recorded on cassettes and whatever.
And Bernie even recorded his podcast. So
did he?
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast with him and Beulah Fleck, and Bernie came on at the end of it.
Oh, did he? Yeah. So there's all this material out there, you know.
Exactly. So, could you talk about the sensitivity of why you were fired? I mean, what is that about?
Oh, bloody hell. Do I have to talk
27 years, man. What?
Yeah,
what,
I know.
Spill it.
That was the worst years of my life. I mean, you know, I went bankrupt. Had no money. I mean, that was a bit rough.
I see.
For me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really the last time I ever talked to Chick.
I see.
I've never talked to him in 21 years, 20 years. And that's my only regret about him going. It's not my only regret because obviously you don't want anybody to pass away. But the big regret for me is the fact I never got to talk to him again.
The reconciliation.
We could have made a reconciliation, but it's a little interesting thing that's happened. There's a possible way in his passing that I'm going to be able to reconcile something. So I can't say more than that. But,
I understand.
But in him passing, it looks like he might have figured out how some reconciliation could take place.
Well, what was Chick like as a husband and father? I mean, with the massive career, always in the forefront. What were those?
You got to go back. Like? You got to go back to Anna and his dad, Armando. I mean, Armando literally, when Armando passed, we found this scrapbook, and it was completely full of everything on Chick, good or bad. Because, you know, we got bad reviews in the early days with Return to Forever. Downbeat blasted us. They were so fucking wrong, man. They had to eat crow in the end because that band nearly took over the world. That Weather Report and John McLaughlin. So, but we got blasted, you know. Chick got creamed for going electric or doing this or doing that, you know. But Armando kept every review in this scrapbook. Everything that was ever written on Chick that he came across, he kept. And Anna is a legend. Anna was the best cook in the universe, pure Italian, Sicilian.
Yeah.
And she was the best cook ever. And she just cooked for every musician that Chick played for. I mean, I had some of the best pork cutlets I've ever eaten in my life with her. And the garlic. And, oh, man, she was... You'd call her up and say, oh, Anna, have you got any food? Come over, Ron, come over. You'd go over and have these incredible... whatever, you know, everything was full of garlic. It was amazing. Wow. So it starts with that. The union between Anna and Chick and Armando was very, very close.
Yes.
But then there's Leanna and Thad, and he loved his children. I mean, he still does. If you read Thad, did you read Thad's tribute?
I have not yet. No, sir.
It's on Facebook. I mean, you know, imagine your father being Chick Corea, flipping heck. How'd you get out of that? Yeah, it's a hard one. And Chick's Thad's a pretty competent drummer, actually.
Wow.
Liana's a very good singer. She can sing. But I think he adored his family. He loved my kids. He still does. Yeah.
Well, you were nice enough to send me some pictures that I'm posting up. Tell me about this one with little Liz when she was
Elizabeth. Yeah. That's upstairs at the Roxy in LA.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we were playing there.
Yeah.
And I just happened to catch, it's a kind of mystical photo as well, have you noticed?
Mm-hmm.
It's got an air about it. And Chick's got a toothpick, and Gail's poking her head around the corner, and Elizabeth standing there looking almost like she's out of a horror movie, really. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. It's hard to imagine that she wasn't acting, very.
She was acting.
Prepared herself.
Yeah, but she was an actress at that point.
I'm sure.
But she looked like Carrie out of that movie. Anyway, it's kind of weird.
Well, what about this picture with you and former President Jimmy Carter?
Oh, that's a hilarious story, actually. There's a story behind that. You see me shaking hands with him, right?
Yeah.
So you got to get the picture. Oh, it's the other way around. I'm this side, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And there's a line of people behind me. Ron Carter was standing right behind me. Cecil Taylor.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to go and shake hands with the president. That's the game.
Right.
They got the White House in the background, right?
Right.
Yeah. And you literally walk towards him. He smiles, that smile in the picture.
Right.
Shakes your hand, and you're gone. He pulls you by.
That's it.
That's it. You don't get to speak to him or anything like that. It looks like you do, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's like we had a little chat. No. It's like when you're gone, and the next guy's there. Yeah.
3 seconds.
Well, imagine if less. 3 seconds. Yeah, probably 5, maybe. But you got to shake hands. He's going to shake hands now with 150, 200 people.
That's true.
And they're all famous, more famous than him.
Yeah.
He's a peanut farmer.
That's wild. Now, this picture up here now is with you and Chick standing by some keyboards. And boy, don't the two of you look young.
Boy, we do, don't we?
What do you know about what year this was here?
That's got to be 85, 86.
Very cool.
Wow, it's scary, that photo.
I tell you what, but all of the technology of that time, though, with the keyboard, the computer and behind and all that.
I can't remember what the keyboard is. Is it a synclavier?
It looks like a synclavier.
Yeah, so that's got to be 86, 87.
Yeah, absolutely. And then
it's a posed photo. I don't think I was actually showing him anything.
But it looked like you guys were in conversation.
So
but now, what about the 13-piece band? This is a phenomenal looking band here.
Oh, well, that was the joy of my life. I was the manager, and I got to play trombone next to Jim Pugh. Jim Pugh could spit me out in bubbles. He's like, Jim Pugh is a genius trombone player.
Yeah.
And then there was James Tinsley in that photo, and I think John Thomas, lead trumpet for Basie for years.
Yeah.
James Tinsley was the Boston Pops trumpeter. And then in front is Dave Liebman. And then I think it's Chick. Rick Laird's on bass. Rick Laird used to play with Mahavishnu Orchestra. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't know that, no.
He was the original bass player, I think.
Gee,
with Billy Cobham, Rick Laird, and John. Anyway, and Gail's in there somewhere too. I think she was on. She played. What was that keyboard? Oh, weird keyboard that had tapes in it. That sang
tapes.
Yeah, like it. You get and they go and they cut off.
Oh wow!
So it was an early synthesizer,
like a sampler of some kind. Before
it was actually it was all her voice. We programmed in all 3 octaves of her voice.
Jeez.
2 octaves. And she could play her voice in choirs, like a choir. Because she's a good keyboard player, Claire.
Yeah. Have you has there been any arrangements at this time? I'm sure it's all going to be very private.
No funeral arrangements that I know of. No.
I see.
I think they'll probably do, with the pandemic, you can't really have funerals,
Sure.
And you certainly can't. At the church, they're really hot on the pandemic. So you can't have multiple gatherings
I see.
at the church in Clearwater.
I
So
see.
I suspect what they'll do is some sort of what they've been doing recently when Scientologists have passed of stature. They do a Zoom thing where you can dial into the Zoom meeting and watch what goes on.
Understood.
I suspect that that's what they'll do. I mean, if it was normal times, they'd have a huge concert, I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
Tribute.
I'm
But
almost
we
sure.
can't do that. You can't do that, man.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, what an incredible life. You know, obviously, too much material, I'm sure, to discuss in the time that we have. But you know, I really appreciate the time that you've given us and the memories that you've allowed us to share by taking further glimpses into the man. Obviously, you know, all of the tributes, 99.9% of them would be his incredible catalog and his musicianship. But for you to walk beside him and through good and bad times and just say, hey, this was a journey I'm sure you'll never forget, Ron.
I never will. We had bad times too. I mean, it wasn't all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you know, I've never seen on Facebook so many tributes. Have you?
Yeah. It's been remarkable. I can't keep up, so I haven't tried.
No,
I know. Personal mourning, because I really, you know, I felt myself going into mourning like I knew him. And that's because you've spent so much time. I mean, Jiminy, I've spent so much time with Chick Corea in just listening mode.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You know,
that's what I'm having difficulty is going past the music, because I had a lot of personal times with Chick, you know, like just talking on planes, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's often marital troubles that you act as a friend, you know, conflicts with musicians and everything. Everything wasn't rosy.
Well, sure.
And but he had an understanding, man. He was a philosopher in his own right, in my opinion. He wasn't just a Scientologist who espoused L. Ron Hubbard's technology or philosophy. He was his own philosopher, in my opinion. You know what I mean? His philosophy of wanting to bring creativity to the world. He did that. He didn't mince. He was the practicing that, and it's not easy to do. You know.
Yeah.
And yet he did it, and that was his motivation. And the last thing he says in there is about, you know, his musician friends and stuff. I mean, it's rough. It's hard to take. I can't believe that we won't actually see him play again.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's hard.
That is hard. That is. Now, what do you think that you bring about a question that I first thought when I saw the statement on chickcorea.com, that, you know, after receiving this news, what type of man, you know, takes the time to really craft the type of letter that he does?
I know. Well thought out, wasn't it?
Very much so.
That was definitely him. That was definitely him.
So
it wasn't written by anybody else, I can tell you that.
Yes, sir.
That's him. Yeah.
Wow.
But that's his level of understanding, and the fact that he wouldn't go back in the hospital and he knew he was going, and he wrote that is amazing if you think about it.
Now, when we understand, and you know, please, you know, I'm asking this question with the sincerest sensitivity. We don't understand how long it was since he had heard the news to his demise. Do you have any?
No data at all, man.
Wow.
And I don't even know what type of cancer it was. But no, I don't. But I was talking to one of his other dear friends, Joel Karp, who's been a friend of Chick since they were at school together, 5 years old. I was talking to him on Thursday, I guess it was. When did I nearly die? Wednesday. Thursday, yeah. I told you my story on that.
Yes.
And Joel was saying that when Chick did some interview or some sort of academy thing, I think it was, and Joel thought he didn't look well, and that was November. So who knows, you know?
Right.
But even then, November to February is pretty quick.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, usually even with pancreatic cancer, it's like 6 months.
Yes, sir.
You know, pancreatic killed my first wife and my daughter's mother, and it was the problem with pancreatic cancer is you can't detect it, and it goes too far before they find it.
I see.
And that can be a pretty quick way to go.
Yes, sir.
But I don't know if it was that. I have no information whatsoever what it was, or the timeline. I have no data on the timeline. I'm just saying what Joel thought.
Yes.
Looking at him on the video, he thought he didn't look well, and he actually was quite thin at the end, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was thin, but I thought he was just working. I thought it might have been his diet.
He was vegan.
Yes.
He certainly worked out every day, and I know that he took care of himself.
Certainly.
He had a double hip operation at one point, and that was all over. But I mean, he took care of himself. I thought he was just looking in great shape.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
It's all speculation on our part. And, it reminds all of us how short life really is. And anything could go wrong at any time. So you live the best life you can. Stay true to your faith. Stay true to yourself. Stay true to your family and your friends. And, because this is it.
True words, Jerry. 2 words. Those are true words. And he did that, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He did it. Chick did.
What I could see from what I knew of him, obviously didn't have the advantage of walking alongside him like you did. But, from afar, I can get this portrait, this snapshot of, wow, what an incredible man we lost.
Yeah, there were times when, we were on the road and he was really suffering with the hip. And we took some. I didn't take them, but he did some chiropractic things, which I think made his hip worse.
Mm.
And I was we have these technologies in Scientology. It's called touch assist and things where you help the person look at the body and try and heal it itself. Mm. I would spend hours with him trying to help him through those times because he was in such pain. And then he'd go out on the stage. I mean, basically, Chick's hips went because he sat down his whole life.
I see.
If you think about it, he's a piano player.
Yeah.
He didn't even stand up. Hours and hours sitting down. In the end, your hips go.
Wow.
I mean, it's kind of logical, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, but he played in that kind of pain sometimes. And you couldn't tell by the music.
Yeah, for sure.
But he was in pain. And he would come off the stage, and I would try and help him. Mm-hmm. And we spent many days doing that on the road in Japan and everything.
Yeah,
it was rough. It was rough. I mean, it wasn't all good times,
I understand.
But
now, I'm sorry.
His ability and to overcome that stuff was extraordinary.
And he did it through music.
Absolutely, he did it by creating. It's not just music.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
It's not just music. It's a being's ability or desire to create is the only thing he has. Mm-hmm. You really look at it when you take all the rest of the shit away.
Yeah.
All you've got is the ability to play a trombone solo, whatever, write a book, act a scene. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what we've got creatively. I mean, yeah, some of us do it with music. Some of us do it with acting.
Yes.
Some of us write music or articles. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the fact you got to keep creating. And that's what Chick's message was. Wow. Just got to keep creating.
Well, before I let you go, let me ask you this question. Did he talk much about his time with Miles?
Yeah, we talked a lot. I mean, that was a long story. I mean, when I first met Chick, he wasn't talking to Miles. Nobody was. Miles was holed up in an apartment in New York, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. And then Herbie and Chick went over, and Miles drew a gun on him, told him to get the hell out of there.
Wow.
So those were not good times, But then I noticed a change. Actually, when we moved to Los Angeles, that's when the change started. And Miles and Chick got back in touch again. I don't know how that happened. And all of a sudden, Chick started talking about Miles more and relating the stories, because Chick and Miles had some pretty hairy times together because Miles was doing every substance known to man.
I see.
And giving it to Chick. Don't forget. I mean, I remember Chick relating one story. Actually, this is a funny story. I just realized I remembered it. They were, I think, the Vanguard or something playing. And they came off at the intermission, and Miles gave him this pill, and he took it. And he went back out on the stage. And this is Chick's relating this story. So he says, we started playing, and he says, and what I did was watch my hand go like this. And the whole set went by at that speed.
Wow.
I know. I don't know what the hell he took, but that's his recollection of the set, you know.
Wow. Gee,
so there were those kind of things that, you know, and I think to some degree, Chick didn't, you know, Chick got off all that stuff. He went vegan. He went, you know, rice only. And he got off all those drugs, became a Scientologist. There's no drugs in Scientology. And he straightened himself out. And I think there was a little bit of like, there was some animosity there because of the drug thing, you know, because I think that's what killed Miles Young personally. That I think he died fairly young because of all the drugs he took. If you think about it, you can't take all those drugs and not have a price.
Sure. But you know, you know, with some of the other, not to name names or anything like that, but some of the other contemporaries that you would see Chick on stage with, you know, unfortunately, these gentlemen were drug users, and it's just, I mean, that's just the truth of it. I'm not trying to.
They were careful around
anybody, you know. They
were careful around Chick.
Yeah.
But I remember also him telling me the incredible stories of the concerts. I mean, the Isle of Chick's love for Miles was without bounds. I met Miles at least 12 times with Chick. He only spoke to me twice.
Wow.
Yeah, ever. So I met Chick. I met Miles. I was with, you know, went in the dressing room with Chick, into Miles' dressing room 10 times. And then we played Long Beach Jazz Festival. And Miles was on that festival. It wasn't the Long Beach Jazz Festival. It was a festival in Long Beach. And we went into Miles' dressing room, and Miles said hello to me. I'm a white guy. And he said, hello, Ron, something like that. You know, I was just floored. I mean, you know. And then the last time I saw him, we were at the Universal Amphitheater in LA. And he'd done the show with, oh my goodness, I'm going to forget the bass player. You know the bass player, the writer, the producer,
Marcus, yeah.
Great band, man. They did Nature's, all that stuff. And we went in the dressing room, and the Universal Amphitheater dressing room is really nice. And I sat, and Chick and he talked for at least an hour, I guess. And he acknowledged me. He said hello, you know. Well, I think after a while, Miles realized that I'd been with Chick forever. You know, it's like, oh, this guy's not a flash in the pan. You know, he's not the normal rip-off manager.
Right.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah.
And he granted me the beingness to acknowledge that I existed.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, you know, from Miles' storied career, he spoke to you more for the reason of substance and not just because you were, you know, or were not white. I think, I don't know anything about Miles Davis. He's a legend to me, but, you know.
He tended to be a reverse racism, really.
I see.
It was the other way around. But then again, he had Bob Berg in his band. He had Michael Stern. Yeah. I mean, he had a lot of white guys. It's not, it's white. I mean, you know, so he wasn't a racist, but he didn't, I tell you, I don't think so much that I was a white guy. He just didn't trust business people.
I see.
I think he was burnt badly in the business world, you know. I think George Butler was one of his great friends that actually got him out of that apartment and got him playing again. And I think it was more it's nothing to do with black or white. It was to do with crooked businessmen. Gotcha. So he always had a what's the word I'm looking for? He always, you know, was very, very careful with business. Yeah. So I was on the businessman side.
So that's what got you your out. That's where we're parked at, because I
No,
know nothing of.
I honestly think it was that, though. I honestly think it was that.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
George Butler was with Columbia Records, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
heard that. I don't know much about the story, but I heard that George kept going around to his house and trying to get him to play again, because he wasn't even playing then, was he?
Right. Right. I
And he
heard
got
that.
him back in the studio,
Mhm.
didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. And then Marcus was a good
Oh, he was fabulous.
revitalization for him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He did some great albums.
In that documentary we were talking about jazz, it's John Hammond. He doesn't paint a great picture of John Hammond, and yet I thought John was always the friend of jazz.
Mhm.
He was a bit of a jerk by the sounds of it, but
Oh, I didn't know.
I didn't know either. But
I
they
have no
don't
comment.
paint him in a good. They paint him in not a good picture. But George Butler got painted well. And what was Mars's manager a long time? Tight, between T. Anyway, he trusted him, but he didn't trust a lot of businessmen. And I don't think it was anything to do with the fact I was white or black.
Right. I didn't think so. I wanted to make sure that we closed the door on that, Tip, because
I think I'm glad we did, because I didn't want to give the impression that Mars was a racist. But, but he never spoke to me 10 times. And I think it was because I was his manager.
That's where we'll land that one.
I think it's really true. Actually, I think it's true.
Absolutely.
He just didn't trust managers or businessmen. He did not trust people.
Wow.
And by the way, I can't blame him. I think he had a lot of his songs ripped off, didn't he?
Yeah, it's that whole era of music, and record companies, lawyers, business, because a contract, when the contract is like that and all we're trying to do is make some music and sell a few discs, what's the problem?
The problem is there's a lot of money. I think we talked about this last time a little bit when I said with Stretch we never took any publishing royalty or writers.
That is correct. That is correct. And that's the right thing to do, because that's called cross collateralization. You don't need to even think about publishing. You're there to sell the record.
But I bet you Taylor Swift has that problem. I'm telling you. In other words, like, I bet the record labels are still trying to get the publishing.
Record labels, no, that's a whole, that, my friend, is a whole nother conversation. And as you know, we're going to have another conversation for sure. But no, this one was about our friend, and I say this out of tribute. You knew him and you walked with him and you worked with him, but we wanted to really just accentuate the humanness, the man, Chick Corea. And I'm so delighted. I just want to say to you, Ron, I really appreciate you. These last conversations that we've had has been very dear to me. And when I dialed you up, I didn't want to do a tabloid thing or make you feel pressured to have to say anything. And you so graciously gave us the time to give us your personal insights on who Chick is. And
so we dodged the big one, which is me getting fired. But so
well, that's because you chose not to talk about it, which is that's
you know why though? It's not just because I don't really know what the hell happened, even to this day. I mean, when you get those things happen, it gets so complicated,
Yeah.
And I don't really know who said what to whom and why and how it happened. I don't know to this day. I know that Gail defended me. I know that people stood up for me. They tried to, but something went wrong, didn't it?
Something went wrong.
Yeah.
And I hope, By
the way, it's something I did, not that he did, not Chick did. Something I did went wrong. I must have screwed up somewhere. I had to. Well, I know I did. I know what where I made my mistakes. So I know it was my responsibility. It wasn't his.
Well, I do hope that you would have the opportunity, before long to reconcile. And maybe, as you said before, because of his passing or through, the result of his passing, you and his family, his friends, or his network can get back together and there can be a true reconciliation.
Well, I do talk to Thad. I mean, it's strange. I bumped into Liana in a supermarket the other day. I mean, it's not like nobody talks to me, but the thing that's so important here is that this guy was such a gem of a person
Yeah.
And he really was a gem. I mean, not only was he a great musician and composer, he was a real wonderful guy, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Ask any of his friends.
Or his fans. Because we could hear it. We could hear, there's truth in music. And you can hear a person's spirit just as you can the rhythm, the melodies, the chord progressions. You hear that person's spirit.
Yeah, you don't write music and songs like that from evil, do you?
That's correct. At least I don't think so.
No, he was a gentleman and he was a wonderful guy and a genius.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, is there one more story or one more memory you want to share before we dive off?
There's some bad ones.
It's your spotlight.
Oh, I can't tell them all. That's the problem. I know I can't go there. Can I? I don't know. I remember we were in Italy, and we were in Italy, and she got a girlfriend, Italian girl, and Stanley and I both suspected that she was sort of mafia connected.
Mm.
And so one day we're outside the hotel, and Stanley was a big basketball player. He loved basketball. And he's got a basketball, he's bouncing the basketball. And Chick comes down and out of the hotel, and this car pulls up like a big black limousine car, and these guys get out, right? And Stanley and I realize who this is.
Okay.
So we guess that this is the husband or some shit going on. So Stanley throws the ball to Chick, and Chick catches the ball, and we start playing basketball outside the hotel. Like, yeah, nothing's happening here. And the guy goes in the hotel, and he comes back out, and he gets in the car and drives away. And it was the last time Chick saw that girl. But I mean, you've got to be there with Stanley, because Stanley's an incredibly funny guy. And let's play basketball. And I don't know how to play basketball, but we start playing basketball, looking like we're just a bunch of white guys, white Americans playing basketball, and this huge limousine, like with guys with machine guns in the back or something. I don't know.
Jeez. Wow.
That's called a close call. Yeah.
I am absolutely speechless. I don't know if I should have asked you to share that.
You shouldn't ask me that story. No, but it's funny, right? Is it funny?
Yeah, it's beyond funny. There's a lot of elements there. So
Well, I mean, Chick was a real guy. He was a real man.
Yes, absolutely.
He wasn't weird or anything. He was a real thing.
Yeah.
He had normal urges just like the rest of us, By the way, he had a lot of pretty girls fell in love with Chick, believe me.
I'm sure.
You play a piano like that and you sit down and do that, man.
I'm sure. They
fell in. I wouldn't don't envy Gail's job. Keeping him. I mean, everybody fell in love with Chick.
Absolutely.
People still do. Look at the tributes.
Yes. Yeah.
He was loved. He was loved by people,
Without fail.
I feel like I might have, I don't know. Hope I haven't overstepped the thing. I just hope I've given the right impression. Because there's no right or wrong impression. There's only one impression. And that is that Chick is a creative genius and an extremely ethical and nice guy. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. And I really appreciate your perspective. I appreciate your experiences, and I appreciate the opportunity that you've given us to just take a deeper look into this man that we just, we cherished. Because we did cherish him.
We'll carry on cherishing him because I think there's going to be a lot more music come out.
Definitely.
I hope anyway, yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Ron. This is Ron Moss. Again, manager extraordinaire, record label president, Stretch Records, and just a great guy, trombonist in his own right, and has worked with the great Chick Corea for 27 years, father of the incredible Elizabeth Moss. So he is the dude. And we appreciate
I hope she enjoys that photo if she sees it, because I don't think she's seen that photo for 20 years. Yeah.
Well, you know, we put a photo, the last conversation we had, we put the photo up of
that
her,
was
but it's more
nice.
present.
That was really nice. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So hopefully she goes back down memory lane herself.
Look at a stupid father. Yeah.
I appreciate you. This won't be the last time that you see Ron Moss. I mean, because the next time we get together on the EntreMusician, we're going to talk about the elements, the essential elements of being a manager. And if you're looking for a manager, then we're going to talk about what qualities you should be looking for. Or if you're a manager looking for an artist, we'll reverse it. And Ron will be able to give you the skinny on all that because he's done it with the best of them, for the best of them, and obviously Chick Corea himself. So that'll be the next time we talk to you. Okay, brother?
Okay, brother. Thanks.
Blessings to you. My name is Jerry B. That's Ron Moss. We are EntreMusicians, but that's not important. You know what's important? So are you. We will see you again next time. Peace and blessings.